All right, welcome back to another episode of the Exertis Almo ProAV podcast. We're excited to be here and continue bringing you exciting stories about the world of AV. Now, as much as we do this, as much fun we have, I find it more fun when we can bring somebody on who's got the inside scoop, the inside knowledge about the products that we're all out there installing and deploying. So in order to do that today, I want to bring on Jonathan Brawn of Brawn Consulting.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. Listen, I hear so much about what you guys are doing out there. So help our audience know. I mean, I think most people probably, if they don't know you, they don't know the impact you're having on the industry. So help us understand what your role is, specifically with a company like Samsung, and what you're doing to help further them along.
Absolutely, Nick. I'll be happy to. So in short, and for anybody out in the audience who knows me, I know it's challenging that I don't always have the ability to be brief, but I'll try for everyone's sake. So we are an outsourced services company. We've worked with Samsung for over 2 decades, and we help them with basically support for our tier 1 distribution partners like yourselves and all of the resellers across Samsung's entire commercial display portfolio. And we've gotten to watch them grow and evolve as we provide both pre-sales, design assistance, product recommendations, comparisons, etc., as well as post-sales technical support. And we also get the real good fortune and the honor to get to work with Samsung in terms of things like new product launches and other things. So we get to see all the fun toys before they come out.
Now, Jonathan, look, you're a consultant. You've got this opportunity. You sort of sit in the middle. You get to choose whatever you want to deploy or to recommend or to design around. Why do you choose Samsung?
So other than the fact that they pay me, so if we get that joke out of the way, the fact that they really are the world's top display company, have been for a very long time. When I first got involved with Samsung, they were not the brand they are today. They've really grown and developed, and now they're putting out incredibly cutting edge pieces of technology. And not all of it is commercial. There's a lot of consumer technologies they develop, like their QLED panels and QD OLED panels. I'm a display technologist, so I get nerdy about that kind of stuff all the time. I'll spare everybody, unless we have any nerdy people, then hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll tell you all about it. But the reality is they make incredible technologies, and they're trying to develop things that, if we get away from speeds and feeds and model numbers and the stuff that, there's spec sheets for that gets boring, that they're really trying to develop additional value for the reseller partners and the ultimately end user customer that makes all this work. And so that makes it a real fun ride for all of us. And I love seeing all the new releases every year.
All right, so Jonathan, as you're out there designing new deployments, coming up with new concepts, what's exciting to you from Samsung right now? What are the things that are oh my gosh, everybody needs to see this?
Absolutely. So just having come out of InfoComm just a few weeks back, there were a whole slew of new product releases. But actually, one of the ones that I felt was really exciting was pre-InfoComm, which I know is kind of scary and blasphemous, ooh, why would they do that? But the new all-in-one direct view LED products that the company launched, I think are some of the most impressive I've seen. And a lot of people out in the audience are going to go immediately, wait a minute, that's not new. People have been doing all-in-one direct view LED for a while. That's true. But a lot of times when you order direct view LED as an all-in-one, you basically get a predetermined kit that's shrink wrapped on a pallet that gets shipped in, and you're still assembling it the same way. Now, the manufacturer will likely include trim for it, maybe put some speakers with it, but you're still building it the same way you do a traditional DV LED product. Well, the problem with that is that takes time, and it's a lot of labor, and that increases costs. So Samsung decided to change that up quite a bit and really approach it completely differently from a base level design standpoint, where you can install a 146 in less than 2 hours, which is crazy. And the only reason I even believe that is because I've had to do it. So yeah, I'm not that kind of consultant. I'll actually put on the Iron Maiden t-shirt and the ripped jeans and go help install stuff. It's incredible, and it's impressive. I love what they've done there, and it's something they've talked about quite a bit. But there's been a ton of new products coming out that I find pretty exciting.
Well, that's always been sort of the unfortunate piece about the all-in-ones is that they deploy just like any other LED wall and have the same problems that any other LED wall might have. And so this sounds exciting, the sort of the direction they're headed. So let's pivot into the producers have got us a nice little slide deck. Let's slide into that. We'll talk about some of the products that we're seeing out there. So let's kick it off with the wall. Talk to me about the wall. What is this?
So that is exactly that new all-in-one. The wall, for a number of people probably recognize that. The wall is Samsung's micro LED product that was introduced about 4 or 5 years ago. So it's not brand new technology from the direct LED standpoint, but it is some of the finest pixel pitch product currently available. But this one here that we're highlighting, the IAB series, and don't worry, I'm not going to go all crazy into model numbers on everybody. I don't want to put anyone else to sleep. I find that kind of stuff interesting, but I know most people don't. The IEB series was unique because that's what I was talking about, that new approach. So it's both a 110 and a 146, so two sizes, two resolutions, 1080p and 4K available. But the thing is, it ships in 3 or 4 modules. It'll still fit in an elevator, but now it's way simpler to install. You're basically putting up a wall mount, a set of what they call docking plates, and then you put 3 or 4 LED modules onto it instead of dozens of them. So you
Yeah.
can have two people install a 146-inch screen in less than 2 hours, and it'll
And
look and
this,
feel like an LCD.
well, and this certainly keeps it from there being or lessens the chance of the Christmas tree effect and some of the other artifacts that can happen if you're working with
Exactly.
non-plumb walls or, yeah, that's spectacular. It's a good move. Great direction for them. Jordan,
Yeah.
let's go on to the next.
Ah,
All right. Explain to me what's going on here.
okay. So Samsung needs subtitles sometimes for all the jargon that we collectively use. It's something I've had to learn to do over my career with them. So we talk about the transition from QXB to QXC. So this is a great attempt to try and encapsulate like 20 plus model numbers into something we can talk about in 4 bullet points. So when we look at that last letter, B to C, that Samsung likes to use a letter to denote a model year. So they've been shipping what they call the QXB, QBB, QMB, QHB, so different model series. B just denotes the year. And the new C generation product was shown off at Infocom, and it's moving out over the course of the rest of this year. And there's some big changes to it. And I can really get that in 4 points for everybody here, just to get the essentials that everyone needs to know. One, they finally are listening and moving the VESA pattern on the back of the display. Now it's going to be centered. And I know there are going to be some folks who are going to go, why is that a big deal? Well, when you're installing a display, particularly if you have to install one in portrait mode, you have to do the math on where the mount sits so you get the center line of the display where you want it. And if the VESA pattern is not centered, it can be a hassle. And I know that a lot of different display manufacturers have been kind of all over the place about that. So finally, with this cabinet redesign, it's going to be smack in the center, make it easy to install, especially in portrait mode. That's just a nice quality of life thing. So that's one major change. The second one, and I haven't figured out what black magic they have gotten into to make this happen, they've dropped the depth by over 40% for the displays. So now they're going to be vanishingly thin. The 55-inch model is something like 40 millimeters thick, which is insane. And this is something we haven't seen for probably close to a decade, when there was this big competition to see who could build a thinner display and using all the little edge-lit LEDs versus slim direct. Well, they figured out a way to get them even thinner. So that's going to be more sustainable and much greener because it's a lot less material going into every panel. And now they're easier to install so that you can get them much closer to the wall for ADA compliance and things like that for digital signage. And it just looks better on the wall, which is a nice change. So that's bullet point number 2. The third one was something that's come out of a lot of discussion around one of their consumer products, and I'm not going to go off on that tangent, but it was the frame. They love to come up with names like the frame, the wall. They have a fridge called the Bespoke. Go look that one up. It's hilarious. A modular refrigerator for high-end homes. Love that. But the frame was super popular because it looks like a picture frame when it's off. Well, one of the trends you see in digital signage is, and in commercial AV in general, is I want to multi-purpose my screens, but I want it to be art when I'm not using it for communication. Well, now they took a riff off of the frame consumer TV and they've put interchangeable picture frame bezels on the QXC product, light wood, dark wood. There's a white one. It comes in black, as all commercial displays do. So now you can make it look like a picture frame. And so that's going to be the kind of the third major update. And then they're doing a big upgrade to the operating system. And no, I'm not going to go too deep into that. All everybody needs to know is that they're radically improving the web browser and those compatibility for internal tools like that for web pages for digital signage, because everybody's moving into dynamic HTML driven content. So 4 simple things that are major changes across the whole product line.
It's interesting that the thin ones, it sounds like they're getting ever closer to their QLED product, right? In terms of a
Yeah,
professional display that's super thin.
exactly.
Yeah, exciting to see the direction that TVs are going. I'm still a nerd for a good TV. Can't stop
Amen.
it. It's all good. Jordan, give us the next one. All right. So, I'm really sensing that, like you said, Samsung loves their acronyms. So give us a
Oh
skinny
yeah.
on the BEC.
So the BEC-H. Okay. This one is really interesting because there were some other companies that really pushed the idea of a commercial light product for a number of years, and Samsung was really resistant to jumping into that market. And they had a product that they finally launched called the BET-H, and that was Samsung's first commercial light or prosumer product. They kind of coined the term business TV, and it's been wildly successful. So basically, think a consumer style price point, but full commercial grade, where if all I need is a pretty picture and HDMI inputs, and I'm putting it in a conference room or using it as a digital sign, and I don't need a lot of fancy features like built-in screen mirroring, although it has it, I'm kind of de-emphasizing a lot of that built-in stuff. A lot of resellers get the pressure from a price-driven consumer. Let's put a consumer product in there. We don't want to do that. They're not as durable. They don't last as long. The warranty is not going to be there. So the business TV product comes out. Well, the BEC is the update to the BET. Physically, not a lot different. One of the big things that came back is literally a big thing. They brought the large size back. The BET dropped off at 75 inches. The BEC gets an 85-inch back, which is great for a lot more conference room environments. But it's also getting some software upgrades, like I mentioned, to make the web browser more powerful. And it's going to continue to support things like wireless screen mirroring for Miracast, which is great to have in a low-cost product like this. And it's got a built-in entry-level CMS called the Business TV app that Samsung's been doing for a couple of years that just works on your cell phone. So I can load the app right here on my phone. It's free, and it's great for an SMB customer where you've got pre-built content organized by vertical, healthcare, retail, menu board, and you can really quickly build a nice little digital sign. So for that entry-level customer, it's ideal. So it's nice to see that little bit of a refresh, the bigger size come back, and the software is getting a little bit of an upgrade as well.
Well, and you hit on something really important there, and I've seen this for years. Is you've always got the customer who goes, well, I can get that a good looking TV at Best Buy, or I got my Costco membership. I can go get an 86
A
cheaper than that.
Prime Day like a week ago.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt, right? And I think there's so many things that people miss. Like the warranty is a huge one. Look, they're not going to come repair your TV if it's in a professional environment and you're a consumer TV. The power supplies are not designed for 24/7 operation. There's all these pieces that I think our customers miss, and it's important that if you've got that customer's like really driving you down on price point to say, well, look, this is a TV that's still purpose built for the application you're putting it in. And it comes
Exactly.
with some nice bells and whistles too.
Yeah, exactly. And you get a Samsung name attached to it. So it's a brand you can know and trust. It's not using a no name or a lower end consumer brand where you kind of go, should I do this? I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to trash anybody, but we all know who we're thinking of.
Oh, there's like 6 of them at Best Buy. We get it. It's all
Yeah.
good. Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, let's look at the next product line. All right, so interactive display. Now, look, I think this is kind of coming into its own because as digital signage gets easier and easier for customers to deal with and to start to customize their own, there's like 372 CMS platforms out there that all support interactivity, and so many of them support Samsung displays. So, so not just from a digital signage standpoint, but from an education standpoint, what does the interactive display bring to us?
Absolutely. So this is a fun one. It's something I've really enjoyed getting to work with. And the one that we want to highlight today, especially the WAC series, is a real new direction for Samsung. So a couple of years back, Samsung reintroduced the idea of let's have a digital whiteboard product they were calling the Flip. Cool name. Again, there's that naming scheme thing they do,
The
where it
wall,
had
the
an internal
flip.
gyro. Yeah, it was neat. And the thing was, it was meant to be a digital flip chart. So you could take and rotate it from landscape to portrait, and it had the internal gyro just like your phone does. And so it was a really nice solution. They did it in a different color. It was a white cabinet. It was meant to really stand out. And they wanted to approach the education market after a couple of years of good success in the B2B space selling into conference rooms. Well, after a lot of detailed research and investment, they built up a professional development team. They went through 4 generations of the traditional Tizen-based product using their Tizen OS that they're known for from consumer TVs, commercial products. They got a lot of feedback from a lot of education partners and launched the WAC series, the one we're talking about today, which is their new Android whiteboard. And that brought up a whole host of questions. Why Android? Why, after having a successful Tizen line through 4 product generations, why was this needed? And it was really because the end user, the school customers wanted that open architecture to load their own apps. B2B customers who are looking for conference rooms wanted to be able to run a conferencing app directly on that instead of needing, whether it's Teams or Zoom or whatever, Blue Jeans, whatever your poison is, WebEx. I want to run that on the whiteboard rather than on a separate device. So they brought out initially a 65 and a 75. There's a larger one that should be coming towards the end of the year, but it's bringing that heavy duty Android experience that Samsung's known for. And without going into all the specs nonsense, I'm not going to. It ships with a modern Android OS. It's shipping with 11. It's going to get an update to 12. It integrates with modern mobile device management software. You've got access to a proper Play Store, and it's the kind of Android experience that you're used to from Samsung, from all the mobile devices. I don't work for this division. I'm just an enthusiast that buys their Android solutions. You get that experience, and there's too many low-cost products that are coming out of the Far East that just don't give you the quality, don't give you the performance, don't give you the safety and security with the software. And then Samsung put their own spin on it, putting all kinds of educational tools, classroom management. So it's designed to be a fantastic all-in-one solution based on a couple of years of feedback from the end users that they've been working with. So it's a huge jump. It's a change. It's one that's caused a lot of questions out there, but it's one I'm excited for. I've got my own sample unit for my lab on order. I'm looking forward to getting it so I can start doing more trainings and webinars with the product myself.
Well, an interesting thing, if you look at their consumer division, this is a move they've been making, like, as you mentioned, like from their watches to other areas, is
Yeah.
partnering closer with Android because it does give them open a much larger app ecosystem. There were fewer developers on Tizen. There's thousands, if not more, on Android. So it just really opens up a massive ecosystem of applications that you're just giving consumers so much more by doing this.
Oh, exactly.
So let's shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about emerging verticals and kind of what the trends are that you're seeing, where things are headed. So let's get some of the Jonathan Brawn prognostication here.
You got it.
Healthcare. What are you seeing?
Healthcare. Yeah. Oh, this is a huge one. And I'm glad you bring this one up because one, in terms of digital signage, just that single niche of ProAV, healthcare is one of the fastest growing segments. Retail and quick serve restaurants are automatically the ones we assume, but B2B communications, corporate communications, and healthcare are growing faster than either retail or QSR, even though those two segments represent a larger dollar value. I'll take faster growing and less hotly contested than really huge, but massively low margin, right?
Yeah.
And this was something that came out of COVID as we've been going through recovery and things are going back to normal, even still as we're sitting here today. We understood that the changing nature of communication. And so this was a trend that we saw at Infocom. We're going to continue to see that as looking at things coming up in the fall, like the Commercial Integrator Expo and the Digital Signage Experience Show, as those come around, is that more and more healthcare providers realize that they need dynamic communication. It's easier, it's faster, it's better for them to communicate with their customers because that's really who we are when we're patients. It's easier to communicate internally, and it just provides a smoother, better experience. And so you're seeing that adoption, and even in ways that people don't think about, where we don't just mean digital signage, we don't mean wayfinding, we don't mean things like conference rooms or meeting spaces, but into the exam rooms where we want better viewing of our own. Like I want to be able to see my information and not having the doctor or nurse showing me something on a tablet, having that nice large format display on the wall so that I can be better communicated with, or even inpatient room. If I'm going to be stuck there and I'm in a hospital, I'm not having a good time, right? We're not doing those things for fun. I mean, maybe you're weird and you enjoy that. I don't know. I don't. Having the in-room experience match something like you would see at a higher end hotel with that level of TV, with entertainment, those are all things that are happening now. And it's a much easier sell than it used to be. And it's a much more natural application.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit away from the panel side and let's talk about DV LED. So, government, we're seeing more and more activity with the government sort of, upgrades and whatnot. How are you seeing LED fit into this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So DV-LED, I mean, that's obviously the hottest topic in Pro AV right now. I don't care who you talk to. It's become a thing where every one of the resellers out there who's watching this is looking at a DV-LED practice. You're figuring out what vendors you want to align with, Samsung. But no, reality is you're planning around this right now because everybody's using it. But government's a great application because one, there's oftentimes more money available. There's all kinds of grants and other programs, and it opens up that discussion. But you also think about command and control. Command and control is a great use for DV-LED. I want to get away from projection. I want to get away from traditional LCD video walls because I don't want any bezels and I want longer term technology implementation. And so command and control, who's the number one consumer of command and control? The government, whether it's at the federal level, whether it's state and local, whether we're talking about emergency services or the military, that's a natural use for that type of technology. But it's also that movement in, like with products like we talked about at the beginning of our discussion with like the new all-in-ones, where I'm looking at projector replacement, I'm looking at LCD video wall replacement, and I'm moving into the bigger, brighter, higher performance, longer lasting technologies in conference rooms, in meeting spaces, in auditoriums, for digital signage in the right application. It works. And that's an automatic fit that I don't think a lot of people think about, because you think direct LED, you think Chinese, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's tons of great Chinese brands that are bringing phenomenal direct LED products into the US. I know Exertis Almo works with a couple of brands that are manufactured in the East. Nothing wrong with that, but you need TAA compliance.
Hmm.
And so that's where you're now seeing brands like Samsung offering TAA compliant direct LED that makes this discussion even possible.
Yeah, and there are other compliances that fall after TAA. Some
Sure.
of the government facilities are starting to go even more strict with down to the components, right? And so
Oh,
these
yeah.
become important working with a vendor or a factory that we know is sourcing correctly. So let's shift a little bit away from government and talk about what's happening in hospitality.
Oh yeah, and direct LED, I mean, Vegas is a walking proof, well, sitting, existing proof of why hospitality is turning to direct LED in general, because you've got to have a way to differentiate. And, I don't just mean things like concert venues with like the MSG Sphere coming online, and it's as incredible as it looks, by the way, folks. But it's that I need a way to capture your attention. I need to entertain you. I need to engage with you. And we use the buzzword immersive so much in Pro AV, but it really is something that makes you go, wow, I want to experience that. I'm going to utilize that property over others, or I'm going to pay a slightly higher price for my room because of the experience I get, whether I'm being informed, I'm being entertained. And so that opens up where things kind of become hybridized, where we talk about direct LED, not just the big giant signs on the outside of the buildings, but virtual stages. You're going to see this whole trend of production moving to virtual backgrounds and backdrops, where we're not just green screening things in behind us, where we're actually working in front of a direct LED wall. Well, a lot of hospitality and it works around that form of entertainment, where you've got a theater, whether, at any scale, not just in Vegas, there's a natural fit for an opportunity to use that type of technology, or lobby displays, or you get the idea. So sports books, all kinds of things within gaming. So that's a huge one, and it's only going to continue to grow.
Now, you mentioned earlier, the dealers that are engaging or making it a practice. Do you feel that any dealer who's not looking at DV-LED is doing themselves an injustice?
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely need to be considering this. And even if you don't feel comfortable with that, whether your manufacturer partner can assist, like Samsung has application engineering to assist with design. That's one of the things my organization helps with. They can assist with working with you on installation. And of course, obviously, we've got great partners like yourselves, the Exertis Almo team, where you all can help with design, with implementation, with installation. So they're not paying me for that endorsement, by the way, folks. I'm here on behalf of Samsung. But the reality is, if you're not planning around that, start thinking about it now. Align yourselves with a good partner, a solid partner like a Samsung, and reach out to your reps who supply you with your display products and find out what resources are there, because if you're not doing it now, you will be.
Jonathan, always engaging, always exciting. And of course, you're bringing some fun and interesting new tools to the table here. Listen, we greatly appreciate you having on the show. If customers want to get to know you better, where do they follow you?
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate being here. And thanks to always at the whole Exertis Almo team for involving me. Well, obviously, if you want to learn more about Samsung, Samsung.com. I think that one's pretty easy. Go to the Samsung.com/business to get to the B2B section. If you want to learn more about what my organization does, we're just Brawn Consulting, BRAWN Consulting.com, and we'll be happy to help any way we can.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show. That's another episode of the Exertis Almo ProAV podcast, where you can learn the latest and the greatest. We'll see you all in the next.